Okay, we're in chapter 4 in the textbook, and it's time to build a bracket part in Solidworks. So before we start, we need to come up with a strategy on how we're going to build this part. Lots of different options. We could sketch on the right plane and build this back wall, and then come down and sketch on the top plane and sketch this bottom flange here, and then sketch on the front plane and do this middle rib, and then come back and add the holes and slots later. I think instead what I want to do is build a view looking in from the side here. It looks like this angle. I can extrude that through, and then we'll just cut away at this little piece here, do a mirror on that extrusion cut, and then sketch on the front plane right here in the middle and sketch this little rib and extrude it to make the rib, and then come back and make the slots and the holes in these fillets. So remembering as we start our model, we want our model to orient just like it is in the drawing here on our screen when we get our ISO view. So for this side view, I'm going to sketch on my front plane to get that angle shape. So I select the front plane, go to my sketch tab, and hit sketch. And it spins me around nicely, so I'm looking straight into the side of the part from this side over here looking this way. I'm going to just sketch that angle. We'll start at the origin, snap right there, come over. I'm going to make sure I get my horizontal constraints there, come up here, over. Notice I'm getting my snap to my vertical constraint there, so I get that automatically. And close this out, right click, select. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my planes. They're kind of getting in my way now, so I'm going to come down to view and turn off the planes. I can find the tab. Now I'm ready to start adding constraints. My strategy is going to be to add geometric constraints first and then dimensional constraints last. So I can see here, this leg here and this leg here are both 0.75. So instead of putting two 0.75 inch dimensions, I'm going to put an equal constraint on these two legs. So I select the first leg, hold down the control button and select the second leg. They're both in the box here. So now I just select the equal constraint and approve that. Now as I drag this around, I can see that that constraint is being adhered to. These legs are different lengths, so I'm not going to make these equal. I need to make those dimensional constraints. So now I think I'm ready to add dimensional constraints. So let's put a vertical dimension here of 3 1/4. We'll put a horizontal dimension here of 3, and then this leg here needs to be 0.75. So when I make that last dimensional constraint, everything turns black, which means my strain is fully constrained. My sketch is fully constrained. It tells me down here I'm fully constrained, so I'm ready to exit the sketch. Now I'm going to spacebar and get an ISO view so I can see what's happening here. With the sketch selected, I'm ready to do an extrude, so I'll go to my feature tab, extrude boss base. Looks like the total length is 6 inches. I want to change my option from blind to midplane. This way my plane is going to be right in the middle of the part, right there. So that's what I want, and I'll say OK. Now I'm ready to cut away at these two legs. I'm going to do this side first and then do a mirror. So I need to make a sketch to define this piece that gets cut away. So I'll go back to my sketch tab, select that face, and go into sketch mode. Leave it in ISO view here so I can see a little better what I'm doing. Go to my line command, and I want to cut this part out, so I want to draw that piece on the sketch here. So I'm going to start at this corner, snap to that corner, click there, snap to that corner, go over here some amount, staying on that line. I'm going to get that coincident constraint there. Click here, and then down at a little angle, and then down back over here to close it out. Right click, select. It gets me out of the line command. Now I'm ready for geometric constraints, but really I've added all my geometric constraints I need. I've told it to be coincident against that edge, to be vertical here, coincident to that corner, and coincident to that corner. So as I was drawing it, I was careful to get those constraints as I went along. If I didn't get all the ones I wanted, I could go select those entities with the control button like I did earlier and add those constraints. Now that it's geometrically constrained, now I want to go to dimensional constraints. Looks like I need to go from my mid plane. Well, I can come over here and grab that plane here, the front plane. So the dimension from here to that first edge is going to be half of 0.60. So I'll click here and I can just type in 0.6 divided by 2, hit enter, and SolidWorks will automatically calculate that for me. The second dimension is going to be from that same front plane over to here, and that looks like it's going to be, actually I want to go from this point here down, so I need to go dimension from here to here horizontally. Smart dimensions, depending on where I put my mouse, it'll snap it to aligned or horizontal. So I'm up here, I want a horizontal dimension, make that 1.2, and I need one more dimension because it's still blue. I can drag this around and see what's happening. I need to know how far this goes up and down. Here's this 0.25 dimension, so I can add that last dimension from this edge down to that corner point is 1/4 of an inch. Now when I prove that, I'm fully constrained. It says down here everything is black, so I'm good to go. Exit my sketch. With the sketch selected, I'll go back to features, extrude cut, and my design intent is for it to go all the way through, not blind. So I'm going to change this to through all. And there we go. So now I've got half of it done. I could redraw another sketch over here. Why not take advantage of symmetry and just mirror this feature over the other side? So with that feature selected, I'll pull down my mirror command and grab that cut, mirror face plane. That box is looking for a plane, so I'm going to come up here and select that mid plane and approve that. Now we're ready to make this mid rib. So as advertised earlier, I'm going to sketch on this mid plane and again do a mid plane extrude so I get both sides symmetric about that middle plane. So that plane selected, I'll go back to sketch, hit the sketch button. I'm in sketch mode. I can go to line. I can grab just freehand sketch here. I'm going to come down vertical to here, over to here, and then up to here. Select. So in this case, I missed getting some geometric constraints, but I can always add those in now. So I'll come in here and grab this point here. I want it to go all the way to this edge here. So I select that point, control click this edge, and make those pierce, and that point will now pierce that edge. Do the same thing up here. Select that point, control click that edge, and pierce that as well. Now that's all I need. I need no dimensions because I already know what this dimension is based on the earlier sketches. Same thing vertically. So you see, geometric constraints are the way to go. You don't have to add extra dimensions. So it's fully defined. Everything is black. I'll approve my sketch. With the sketch selected, I'll go back to features, extrude a boss base, go to midplane, and that width is 0.60, so I'll change that to 0.6. And now I've got that part of my model. Now all I need to do are add slots, holes, and these fillets. Let's go ahead and add the fillets first. They're pretty easy to do. It's a 0.75 fillet, 2 places. So I'll go to fillet. I'll change the value to 0.75. And it's asking for the items to fillet, so I just select these 2 edges. No need to hold the control button down, just select them. It'll pop them in the blue box there. Approve that. That takes care of those fillets. Now let's make these holes. I'll just do 2. I'll do 2 holes, 2 circles on this face. I'll extrude those through. So let's go to sketch on this face. Hit the sketch button. Now I just freehand 2 circles in here. One here. One here. And again, I want to take advantage of geometric constraints. Select that circle, control click this circle, add an equal constraint, approve that. I want to select the center of that circle and the center of that circle, and these line up horizontally, so I want to make those points line up horizontally. Again, I like to do geometric constraints first and then dimensional constraints last. Since these are symmetric, I could have done a symmetry constraint, but I'm pretty far along here, so I'm just going to keep going without using symmetry constraints. And down here, I'll sketch these using symmetry constraints to show that feature. Now I'm ready for dimensions. I'm going to diameter on the hole, 0.625. I can put a dimension between this edge and that hole, 1.95. And I want to do the same thing over here. Since the part is symmetric, I want a dimension from this edge over here, that hole, make that 1.95 as well. And then it looks like I need one more dimension, which is the height of the hole from this edge. So I'll go from this edge to that hole, and that needs to be 1 1/4. Since I already created this horizontal constraint, I don't need to dimension this hole vertically because it's going to follow this hole. Everything is black, everything is fully constrained. I'll exit the sketch. With the sketch selected, I'll go back to Features, Extrude Cut, all the way through. And now I just have one more feature to go, which are these slots. So we'll do some symmetry inside my sketch here to show that part of Solidworks. So we'll go back to sketch on this face right here, and I want to make me a slot using my slot center point straight slot. Actually, I'm going to use straight slot so it defines those 2 points. I've got these 2 points defined here, so I'm going to use the center point straight slot option, and it gives me a nice picture to tell me the order of the points I'm going to be selecting. There's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. So I'll go 1, make sure that's a horizontal constraint, 2, and there's my slot. That is so nice. Now I'm ready to put some dimensions on there because it's really geometrically constrained because of the way I created that slot. So now I'll go dimensions. From here to here is 0.75. From here to here, well, this radius is going to be what? Radius is 0.375. And this distance from the center line of this, or the edge of this side of the slot to this first face here is the same radius. So from here to here is going to be 0.75. And then I need one more dimension horizontally, and it's the same 0.75 from the edge. So from the center of the slot over to the edge is 0.75. So I'll go from that line to that edge, 0.75. Now if I redraw another slot over here, like I just did a minute ago with my same slot command, I'll sketch him over here, and I'm not going to worry about dimensional constraints. I want to just use geometric constraints. So I'll select this edge, or I'll select that slot, control click that slot, make those equal. When I do that, now the slot size is set. Now let's line up these points here horizontally, or vertically in this case. And I'll do the same thing for this far edge over here. That guy and that guy. Line those up vertically. There's lots of different ways I could do this other slot, but I'm just using dimensional or geometric constraints. The last one I've got is a side-to-side dimension here. So if I want to do a symmetry constraint, I could make a center line through the middle of the part here. I want to select it and just make it infinite length so it's clear that that's the center line. Now since I've got a center line, I've got to make sure that center line really does live on the middle plane. Right now it doesn't. So what I want to do is select the origin, looking down from the top. I want to select the origin. I want to control click that center line and make those coincident. Now it's on there. I know it's tied down because it turned black. And now with those center line in there, I can now do a constraint, a symmetric constraint, by selecting that center line, control clicking that point, and control clicking that point, and making those symmetric. So there's lots of different ways I could make this second slot. I could have done a feature and just mirrored the feature. I did some symmetry things. So there's lots of different ways to do it. The way I did it might not have been the most optimum, but I wanted to show you different types of geometric constraints. Everything is black, it's fully defined. I'll get out of the sketch. With the sketch selected, I'll go back to Feature tab, Extrude Cut, and again my design intent is for that to go through all, and say OK. So it looks like now my part is complete. Not quite, I still need to define a material. It says here material mild steel. So I'll go to my material tab, right click edit material, and I'll find some 1020 steel. It's low carbon steel. That'll be good for us. And there we go. So that takes us through making our bracket part from chapter 4 using SolidWorks.